It's time to head over to the Horn of Africa as violent clashes between Sudanese authorities and protesters continue, leading to the killing of more than 40 people since the October 25th coup. Eyewitnesses report Sudanese security forces deployed tear gas near the presidential palace in Khartoum as thousands of protesters were recently demonstrating against the military takeover in the country. This comes just days after coup leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan told Reuters that the Sudanese military will be removing itself from the nation's politics after the planned elections in July of 2023. Joining us now from the heart of the unrest to discuss the recent wave of protests and what the new military-influenced regime means for Sudan's future and international relations is writer, organizer, and analyst Muzan Alneel, a non-resident fellow at Tahrir Institute for Middle East Policy. Welcome back to the show, Muzan. Good to see you as well. And again, thank you for staying up so late in Sudan to talk to us. In footage from the protests, we're seeing various signs, demonstrations, cries even from the public. What are the protesters asking for, and what are they trying to bring attention to?
Well, thank you for having me again, Mark. I appreciate it. One of the signs that we just saw in the video says, imagine how frightened are the soldiers from the chants of the streets. And since we last talked 2 weeks ago, 3 large-scale protests took place simultaneously in tens of cities in Sudan on the 25th and the 30th of November and the 6th of December. And the number of martyrs killed by the state forces reached 44 lives lost. The coup government from its side actually failed to date to put together a cabinet in the 2 weeks it announced it will, but the resistance committees have also announced a full schedule of protests for the month of December, commemorating the dates of the large-scale protests that took place in December 2019 and ignited the revolutions. The protests are still carrying the slogans of the 3 no's. That is no negotiation, no partnership, and no legitimacy for the military. They are chanting for the power of the people and for the military to go back to the barricades and for a full civilian government. There are several, the resistance itself is actually evolving politically. There are several attempts by resistance committees and labor groups and demand-based groups working on a joint political declaration clarifying their vision for governance of Sudan and the distribution of wealth and power in the country, and emphasizing basically on removing the military from politics immediately, not after an election or not after any date, but immediately, and for tools of actual democratic participation for the people in Sudan. One of those declarations was signed yesterday in the state of Sinnar by all the unions, labor unions and committees in the state of Sinnar. They all marched to the city of Mayrno and signed a declaration which includes a roadmap to selecting representatives from the ground up and assuming the powers of the subnational legislative bodies. This is a significant step, of course, in the evolution of the resistance in Sudan, and will strengthen it in the face of the common battles and attempts of co-opting that we're seeing from the government. Members of the previous government, the previous cabinet, have also been released from detention. Many of them continued on their reformist path, basically, trying to join the deal with the coup leaders as well as similar to their prime minister. And this got them rejected by the public when they tried to join the protest, which basically just gave us some hilarious and embarrassing viral videos of them being ignored by the protesters. But the resistance remains standing steady by its slogans.
Do you feel like the resistance movement is getting the proper level of international support? You know, oftentimes we'll see coups supported by people who don't necessarily care about the outcome, but simply about having control in the region. We'll see that in the Gulf. We'll see that from the West. Certainly, the United States is no stranger to supporting the wrong side of a coup. In fact, we haven't found the United States hasn't met a coup leader that they didn't love. Is the international community showing the proper support? And if so, who is, who isn't?
Well, the international community is not surprising us. It is supporting the coup. That is definitely clear to us. Starting and there are attempts to co-opt the resistance by the international community and by the national elites and the government itself. Let's start nationally. We have that the coup leaders and the prime minister, who could not, as I said, make their 2 weeks plan to announce a new cabinet. They do not even have the support among the elites, who do not want to affiliate themselves with the military coup. But they also have been trying to get or even fake public support by arranging meetings with anyone who would actually agree to meet them, and there are not many, which limited them to meetings with loyalists of the military and the regime that was ousted in 2019. They are trying to also meet with the resistance committees, who have rejected that many times. We have that they're getting only the support, as you said, from the international community and from their regional supporters. That includes Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the European Union, and of course the USA. They've all put statements in support of the deal that legitimizes the military coup. These international supporters are also trying to fabricate a path into mending the gap between the public and the government of the prime minister. So, for example, the special representatives of the United Nations Secretary General, who supported the deal with the coup leaders and is working on including the opposition on the same deal. The special representative have invited the resistance committees to a meeting recently, and most committees rejected it on the basis of the UN's pro-deal position, which that they see as also pro-coup, and thereby making the UN an enemy of the revolution, and all those international supporters of the coup also an enemy of the revolutions. And although some committees agreed to meet with him under the condition of live broadcast in the meeting, this was rejected by the UN special representative, indicating clearly disastrous lack of transparency, a fear of the public, and a clear intent to co-opt the committees. These counter-revolutionary international mediators and diplomats are a great risk to Sudanese people. It was their incompetent methods that brought us this flawed first transitional government, which led to the coup itself. And people who support justice can support the Sudanese revolution by condemning these efforts of their countries or of the international community in general. Any effort to force the government of killers in Sudan should be condemned. The US State Department's position in supporting the coup government must be rejected by anyone who supports justice, because if Sudanese people are dying to fight for their basic right, they deserve a government that answers. We deserve a government that answers to us, not to the militias, not to international donors, not to big players. And we expect our revolutionary allies internationally to support us by standing in the face of their governments trying to co-opt the Sudanese revolution.
There is a call for justice, there's a call for freedom, and there's also a call to pay attention to the 14 million people who may be at risk of a humanitarian crisis because of what's happening in the region. So we will keep our eyes glued to this. We will continue to call you for your brilliant insights and analysis and up-to-date reporting of what's happening right now on the ground in Sudan. Muzan, as always, thank you for joining us on Black News tonight.